Okay, go ahead, Dan.
All right. Good morning, Miss Fiona. It is the first day of March at 8:30 here in the town hall. And I guess we'll start with attendance.
So we have Trish Bergiani, Chairman Delarada, Kevin Walsh, Beth Greenwood, Aaron Cassidy Dorian, Bryce Henry, Dart Strayer, Rita Osborne McCall, and myself, Laura Robson.
All right, very good. And is there anything you know from the public?
Nope, I just checked and I didn't receive any requests or concerns.
That will bring us to the minutes of last month, February 2nd. And I will make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that approved unanimously, and that brings us to our resolutions.
Okay, so I reached out. Most of these are actually carryovers from last meeting. I reached out to Prime Engineering, who had told me that they had a new name change, and so in order to be on our TDE list, I checked with Elena, and she wanted to make sure that we updated our TDE resolution. I called him and I still haven't gotten the TDE release, so I'm not sure. I want them to be able to be they're one of our main TDEs, and I just want to make sure that we capture them properly. But I'll let Elena know whether or not I think this still needs to be on there as soon as I get a hold of him. I just haven't been able to get a hold of him, and he'll just tell me one way or another if we need to be on there. His last email to me was very confusing.
Yeah, it seemed like he was a little confused on his end, not getting back to it. He wasn't quite sure.
The last email, it almost sounded like he didn't need us to change it to Prime Engineering, and so now I'm like, okay, I don't know. But if it needs to be on there, we'll put it on there. And then this is also, so these are all very tentative, a resolution to accept land from the owner of 2890 River Road. So this is the land that we've talked about multiple times. I'm putting it on here tentatively. I know that the supervisor and Matt Yetto are very anxious to get this land accepted by the town board because it helps with the plans for putting in the bathroom at River Road Park. So, but we're a little bit dependent on them. It'll depend on when their lawyer draws up the deeds. And I haven't received anything from them yet. If we're able to squeeze it on at the end of March, I absolutely will. I know that there's a lot of support for it. But again, that's really just dependent on their lawyer. So
what's the holdup?
So, I mean, it's not really a holdup. Generally speaking, it takes this long, except the town would like to have it happen faster than it normally does, I would say. And so what happens is after the planning board approves the subdivision, which they did, then the developer goes and prepares the easements and the deeds and, you know, gets it ready so that they can sell the parcels. And that, depending on the developer, can take a while or it can take, you know, a week. In this case, you know, it's taking them a little while, so.
All right.
So we just need like those meets and bounds, descriptions and all that stuff that comes with deed and land transfer. And then the third one is a resolution to accept a linkage study grant through the Capital Region Transportation Council, the CRTC. On March 7th, the CRTC's policy board will review a recommendation from their planning board on whether or not to award the town of Niskuna the linkage study funding. The planning board did recommend award of the linkage study, which is pretty significant. So I have this on here as tentative. It certainly has not been awarded to us, and I don't know what the turnaround time is, but in the case that the turnaround time is quickly, March 7th is actually only 6 days away. So the end of the month may be a reasonable time to actually accept that grant, or it may be April. But I just figured I'd put it on there because even by the time we have the agenda meeting, we'll know. So. Okay, and the reason that the comprehensive plan RFP did not go on for the town board meeting this last February is even though we had good attendance to our pre-submittal meeting, we had 4 firms attending our pre-submittal meeting. We only got 1 submittal. Our budget was in the $30,000 to $35,000 range, and the only submittal we got was for 75,000. So that was not something that we were able to put on the town board. And I talked to Elena, if I wanna carve out some of that scope, I'm gonna have to rebid it, which is gonna take a while. I talked to Jamie about it too. She's still very supportive of getting the comprehensive plan, a consultant. She was wondering if there is some way that we could fund part of it this year and part of it next year, which makes the comprehensive plan review take a little longer. But again, if it's done correctly, there's a lot of support for that. I don't know exactly where we're gonna land on that, but essentially, we probably need to rebid the RFP and take some stuff out. I mean, my guess is that we had 4 consultants interested and only 1 bid. Probably the other 3 just didn't bid because they already knew they were way over the budget.
Yeah, I think the scope was too large
And
in hindsight.
was it drafted all as one scope or could they bid it in chunks?
It was drafted as all one scope.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe that's the thought too. It's like we could bid it in chunks and then select the chunks that we,
Yeah.
you know.
Or if you did that, you could break it, so you did like the first couple chunks in this year and then do additional chunks in the following year to have the budget.
Yeah, and that may be possible with the way it
With
was
that
structured,
paper?
because
Okay.
part of it was support,
Right,
and then the last half was help with assembly.
yeah, because then we know
Okay.
too how much to bid for next year to make sure that we could get everything covered.
Yeah, we could do that. That would make
Yeah,
sense.
I
Really
think
good. Yeah,
If we have funding for next year.
Yeah, well, if I know about it before budget, but this is definitely well before budget, then I can work for it, January 1st, yeah.
Okay.
But we start the budget process in about August.
Yeah, no, like,
And yeah.
how long the budget process
It's
takes.
eternal. It's half my life.
And so what does this entail?
Well, we were looking for support in, like, for example, use tools that we could apply to the comprehensive plan in order to accomplish our goals, primarily, with like open space, preservation, type stuff like that. We were looking for best practices, perhaps, that are done in, other communities, support with that. We're looking for overall review of the final product to make sure it was consistent. Because if you look at the prior comprehensive plans, the committee did a really good job. But there are inconsistencies there because what happens is you work for a document for a long time and you just don't see it. So we were hoping for that. And then we were hoping for a more professional presentation at the end, because they'll have the means to get pictures and stuff in their maps appropriately and stuff. I think, speaking personally, 2013, we could have done a better job with the mapping and stuff. I think the plan content was really good, but the presentation wasn't as good as the committee had hoped. But yeah, we had limited resources.
I think Kathy was just putting the pictures in a Word document.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Yep.
2013,
2013.
2003, I was a chairman. We did it all PowerPoint and did it myself.
Yeah.
2003.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
so that's actually similar, except.
It's similar, but we just use Word. And it's hard to put that together. And when you look at other communities' plans, some of that presentation is just much better, I think. It convey the messages and stuff. It's more than just, hey, it looks great. It's really conveying the message.
Right. And well, so I guess if we broke it down, do we need to all 4 of those categories? Or can we just do 2 of them? Or then are you thinking to do it half and half, 1 year, 1 year?
That's something we would just have to look and see what makes sense. I would imagine we do 2 parts though. Have the way to work.
It's looking like, I don't know how much it would break down in terms of cost, but if we've only basically, from what it sounds like Laura is saying, that the only person was 75 and we've only budgeted like 30 for it. It sounds like we're about halfway there this year.
So we remember what we spent in 13?
We spent like $4,000.
Yeah.
But we had really no support whatsoever. I think we had MJ Engineering come in and talk to us about utilities.
And maybe
And
something on
so-
Parks and Recreation, but you know, if we had support on that.
No, we didn't.
It came out pretty dang good. And, I think you guys did a really good job. So it's gonna be interesting to see what the 75 virgins got on top of the 4,000.
Yeah, well,
They got the work cut out.
A lot less late nights. I don't know. I think,
That's a good.
I think the utility, I think there's certain areas where an outside consultant really provides an expertise that really doesn't have. And, you know, back in 2013, helping us with like utilities and the sewage plant and stuff like that, that was really helpful for us. And the building department provided a lot of support as well. But,
Yeah.
you know, you just don't have that type of expertise on the committee and residents. Sometimes you do, but
Sure.
we didn't at that time.
Makes sense.
And since land preservation and really we want to make some decisions about the remaining space in the town, that's really important. We want to make sure we have the right tools to accomplish those goals. So
No, it's a very important document, so we definitely want to do as best we can. No question.
So I mean, Kathy was a mad genius or something. Like, I know that I did not have the time to put the whole thing together like she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable.
yeah, I mean, I think last time David and I were transferring documents back and forth on that one thing.
I think
And
it's,
Kathy was like full time.
I think from what we've seen, and bunch of us have attended a couple training programs where they had a session on comprehensive plan and somebody gave a presentation. And it seems like they help because they're seeing a broad scope of municipalities. So you're plugging in with people who do this all the time, and they bring up other topics that we might overlook. And then they're just very good at compiling everything to make it be packaged really professionally and look good. And I think we have one from Bethlehem or a couple other kind of benchmark examples, and they're just beautiful.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. Their consultant
Sure.
took all their data and packaged.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we're
that's-
not looking for someone to write the.
Right.
Yeah, as the town.
And that is important, as you say, conveying what you want to do in the plan to the residents and making sure that the message gets out there. And
Right.
really,
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because even looking at, let's say, the 2013 plan that we currently have, there's stuff missing from that plan that was in there. And there's stuff that's ambiguous. And I was involved in the 2003 plan too. And I think there was stuff that we would have liked to have had in there, but wasn't in there, but you just don't, you don't have the broad view.
absolutely. All right, very good. And that brings us to our historic committee.
Yeah, so I mentioned this at the agenda meeting, but we didn't have time to pull it together for the end of February, but Rita and I have been looking at the two different historic committees. She had initially heard me talking about combining the Climate Smart Task Force with the Conservation Advisory Council. What we're trying to do is leverage volunteer time to the best, amount of time as possible. What we ran into with Climate Smart and CAC was that there's a lot of overlap of tasks, and one of my boards was very understaffed. And so essentially CAC started sort of taking it over, and it didn't make sense for me to continue to have an extra nighttime meeting when I didn't have a lot of people, and there was capacity within the CAC to take on the Climate Smart Task Force responsibilities. And so that was successfully combined. I mean, we've been regularly reporting about it. We've got 2 RFPs awarded through that combination, and so far I think it's been working very well. That conversation brought out us to review this. So we have 2 different historic committees right now. The Historic Preservation Committee, which was created by law through the town code, and then we have the Historical Committee,
Advisory Committee.
which was created by resolution very shortly after the former town historian was appointed. And so, do you want
Well, I'm gonna pass these out because what I learned visually gets it. But if you look at the visual representation, on one side you have the Historical Preservation Committee. And they were established by the codes. And if you follow the codes, you realize that there are overlaps, and at some point, they also complement each other. Whereas, like with the plaque program, the Preservation Committee, one of their mandates is to establish properties, to put plaques in. But what the Advisory Committee also has a plaque program. You see, so it's like you have all this double things going on. If it was together, the only thing that I found that was separate was the bench. I mean, well, like the donation from the bench, things like that, like the strands. And what I also realized is that none of them are sustained. None of these programs are sustained throughout the whole year, the entire whole year. So you have like ups and downs as times when, one group can help the other group, whatever's going on as far as like the benches and, ordering things. And another group, like if there's something else that, needs research, you can research this while the other one is actually like with Mr. McKinney, when he was working. He could, a lot of that does for the moldings and all those kind of things. People who just go online anyway, they can sit there and look up these things. You know what I'm saying? Just general little tidbits that while other people are doing something else. So, I think if you can maximize everybody's time, it's a stress on everyone. And also, you have money over at the Historic Advisory Committee, right, that can go over to the Historical Preservation Commission, because they actually do a lot of substantive work. You see what I'm saying? Over at the Advisory Committee, it's basically, they really don't want to do historic preservation. That was made plain at the meeting. They want to do Niska Day, and things like that. They would rather do those things. Those things are great. They're promotional, and you need that.
Mhm.
But that cannot be the most, the scope of what this whole, historic preservation is about. So,
So do we lose any people by combining them?
well,
So we did the same thing that we did, at the combination of the CAC and Climate Smart, is we asked both committees who wish to continue. Rita's got all of that in emails that have been filed with the clerk. There's still a couple people we need to hear back from, but no one's excluded. Everyone gets an invitation to continue. We're still trying, we're using this matrix to make sure that we don't lose anything. Everything's combined, and then we want to carry over as many people as we possibly can.
excuse me, but actually, people have already, resigned at the end of their term. Like the 2023 seemed to be like a large part, and people, they decided that they wouldn't come back. And some people, I know they had been on the board since the committee since 2019. So they were a bit exhausted, you see, and wanted to move on. There's only two people that I know. One was, his end date was 2024. Okay, and he said that he had something else that was going on in things, that you could only stay for like half the movie, half the movie. Oh God, sorry, half the video was on too. Okay, and then one woman said no, she really didn't want to have anything to do with historic preservation or anything like that. So she said no, she left. But one of our key people, Mike, and you heard about Michael Davey. Okay, Michael Davey has been working so hard, okay, as far as research, as far as writing articles, as far as being a core person on the advisory committee, okay? And I think that his talents are wasted just staying in that space, because you have a lot more professionalism over on the preservation committee. And I think that he would do better in that space. You see?
Sure.
I don't know.
It does make sense to get the most out of our volunteers, and if there is committees that just, if we could use those people more efficiently, that's really a good thing. And if these couple people that are interested in this preservation committee, possibly they're being in one of our other committees. Absolutely.
Based on the CAC, when we brought the Climate Smart in under that umbrella, we got some actually very good members on the CAC. So as a net positive, it's sort of brought in additional new perspectives. So that was actually really helpful for the committee as a whole.
All right. Very good. So do you think that will be on the resolution for the upcoming meeting?
But didn't want to rush it, because wanted to go through each individual responsibility. make sure that everyone had been reached out to, make sure that we're in a good place and that both Rita and I are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And then I think March will be good.
All right. Very good. All right, Mr. Walsh.
Okay, I'll give you an update on the planning board since our last economic development committee meeting. Recently approved items, as Laura just mentioned, 2890 River Road, that's the 3 lot, 2 areas being turned over to the town once the paperwork's prepared. And 2219 Knott Street, that's the Being Inspired gift shop that's going in. The old, was a nail salon that was there before. And so, thinking they got their building permit or not, yet, Laura. And in a hurry.
Trish yesterday. There were, yeah, today.
Stuff in progress, 2690 Balltown Road, which is GE Renova. As you know, they were put up a new building. We did some research there, and it's going to require a height variance. So at our last meeting, we had a public hearing. We made a recommendation on the area variance for the ZBA. It goes to the ZBA on March 20th. But we're calling for a tentative resolution for our March 11th meeting, conditioning that the area variance is granted so that we can keep them moving forward. Because we'll get that done at the Sweater Construction. Yep. 2501, which is First Neck Road, the Capital District House Memorial. They came in probably about a month ago now, talking about looking for an extension because they're still doing their fundraising there. Probably pretty expensive with the changes that they made, and plus post-COVID for building materials and et cetera. So it's with the planning office and with legal to see what the maximum extension they could ask for, just to clarify what our zoning code allows. Typically, it's 2 years that we allow, so they're looking to see if they can do a little bit more, so they don't have to keep coming back to us. But their current expiration isn't until November of 24, so they got plenty of time to come back once we get the that.
Do we know how far along they are in their fundraising? As far as
They didn't say, they didn't say, and we didn't ask.
And a little indication, the applicant implied that he would definitely need, he's asking for a 4-year extension. And he sounded like he would definitely need that. So I think that's an indication of how far they have to go fundraising.
Presentation that was included in our last agenda statements online regarding an update on kind of where they stand. These are also going off on different avenues where they're going to have like a portable Jewish Holocaust memorial traveling wall.
Wow.
So it looks like they're maybe spending some of the resources in the interim to get the word out on Zoom.
Yeah, it's a new president. So Michael Lozman has stepped down. He was appointed by President Biden to be a liaison with the Eastern European Jewish cemetery stuff that he does. And Dan Dembling has been the new president. And his vision is more education driven. So in order to build the fundraising support and to get the word out, he's planning on building this, building the memorial in apps, in a traveling educational type of thing where schools and children could see the learning materials that they're going to be able to have at the Jewish memorial. And he thinks that by focusing on the education and touring a sample of this memorial around, that should help with the fundraising. They, of course, started fundraising just as COVID hit. And I think it's been an uphill battle, and the typical way of fundraising hasn't worked for them. So he's trying the education and the touring of the memorial to try and build that support. And he's also been trying to build support among all of the different Jewish communities. And I think he's already gotten some partners that they didn't have before, which should help. So he is very excited, and he has a new plan, and he really wants to take it forward, and he feels it can be successful, but it's definitely going to take time. And there's no changes planned to the memorial that was approved. It's just taking time.
Well, I knew it wasn't going to be anything fast, but COVID, I kind of forgot. I think right after they got their wheels turning, and that hit them.
Yeah, construction costs of substantial.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it's probably twice as expensive as when they started.
Yeah. And not to mention the delay of every year, first year going on. So I didn't know that President Biden appointed Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I'd say almost a year ago, actually. And then Michael was trying to balance both things, but he ended up deciding that he had gotten the process started and he was happy with the direction it was going and wanted to focus on his presidential duties.
Yeah, very good. Other items, 2475 Brookshire Drive, that's 12 apartments. They come in with a sign, and we support the sign. We just challenge the location, so when get back to us. And then we have a new application for 850. We're gonna have 875 start guide. That's a slot line adjustment. We gave them positive feedback. So once they get all the paperwork in, we'll probably move forward with that. Some new things that the planning board has, Clark informed me about, but they have the community agenda statement, so I don't have any data, but Good Glen is looking to do, the community garden. Looks like a new shed, Ball Town Road, 412. The tenant changed to Papa John's Pizza. That's Mohawk Commons. I'm not sure what was in there, or it's an empty space, you know, Clark? Well,
EV Games, I think they said
Oh,
most
okay.
recently.
Papa John's Pizza there, once they come forward. And 46 Balltown Road, looks like signage for St. Peter's Health Partners. And 2321 Knott Street East, that's at Albright's Meat and Company. That's going to be over here in what used to be the ShopRite Plaza, I guess to be renamed. That's, was an open item from our approval before that they come back for signage. So, and then just a couple things, we're still waiting on applicants with the Kells Farm sign that's in the right of way, and Dale Senior Living. We're just waiting for them to give us some information so we can get rid of the pod and put their shed in. All right, very good. That's about it.
Thank you. And to the grants.
Oh, well, I'll just, zoning board.
Oh, zoning, yeah.
Yeah, super fast. 4 cases for March, 1 commercial area variance, which is GE, 1 code interpretation and 2 residential area variances. For grants, Lions Park, Clark had a nice meeting with Matt and the supervisor and Ray, and they did a tour of Lions Park, and they're coming up with some next steps on rehabbing that building. The critical pedestrian grant went to pay the last invoice and realized that the time before that the contractor hadn't even cashed their checks. So Frank and I have been working very hard on this. Frank Basile in Beth's department is just amazing. Figured out how to cancel the check and get it reissued. So that's all taken care of. And now we're still working on the final invoice. Ray's helping me with that. That is essentially to close out the Plum Street sidewalk, which is the last piece of this. And once we get the line and Ray's signature on that, that should be completed, and then we'll go for submittal on the grant.
So that's kind of odd. The contractor hasn't cashed the checks because it's just.
I mean, that's if some of them have been lost in the mail.
We've had this last year, guys, we've had more checks just
Wow.
not get cashed and have to be reissued than I've seen. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just things getting lost in the mail. It's a mystery, but we stop the checks so that they can't be cashed if somebody finds them, obviously, and then reissue. So
is the contractor noticing this, or we?
well, and I've noticed it with multiple
So
contractors
a lot
this
of
year.
time's passing. The contractor would realize they're like,
Well, and
who's keeping the books?
so what they kind of do, and then they're like demanding payment, and I go running over to Frank, and I'm like, I thought we paid this, and then
Well, and
Frank
they'll say,
figures
well,
it all out
we
for
paid this
me.
check on this date, and then they'll say, oh, we never got it. So it's a certain amount of, forensic accounting to figure out who did what when, and yeah, so.
Which I can't do, but that department is very good and keeps me from repaying invoices and super helpful. So
Yeah, because they do get excited if they think we haven't sent them a check. And rightly so.
yeah, and then I always feel good if I talk to them and I can Frank, and he gives me the check number, and it's like, no, I didn't miss this one. Here's the check number. It was sent to you. If you need our help, we can cancel it and reissue, but it always makes me feel good when we've done our work and then we're just helping them. And then obviously the linkage study grant, like I said before, right now, very positive news recommended by the planning board to the policy board. So we'll see how that unfurls on March 7th. Complete Streets, had a really good meeting Actually, last month to work on their goals and priorities, I missed Monday because I got stuck in Alaska for an extra day. Clark took that one over for me. Did you want to update at all what happened at the Complete Streets meeting?
Nothing really jumped out. It was, Bill touched on all the topics.
Okay. I know that I saw a little bit of it. There was a pretty bad accident on the roundabout of Van Antwerp and River Road, and some residents from that area came and talked. So that's something that we can look at in the future.
How bad of an accident could there be?
Well, so it's very interesting. A month ago, we were having a Complete Streets Committee meeting in this room and the power went out in the building. And we just kept hearing sirens going up and down and up and down the road. And we were like, what the heck? And that actually was the car accident. No.
You're going slow.
It was a power pole.
She cut the pole in half.
Oh,
That's why the power went out here. And then, that accident was then addressed at the next Complete Streets committee meeting, which was, it's interesting.
I think it just invited a lot of like things that have always been there. They want a sidewalk, they want people to slow
It
down.
needs a
they want-
sidewalk.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of people from Covington. Is that what that one was? What's the one at
well,
the
there's
circle?
Red Oak and then there's,
Not Covington. What is that?
no, Alva. Alva
Where-
comes up to the top.
What, the one at the very end? It starts with a C.
It's
You know,
Crimson.
Crimson Oak.
Oh,
That's what it
Crimson
is.
Oak, not Red Oak.
Yes. But yeah, there were a lot of residents that were on that letter that was sent to from Crimson.
Yeah.
Crimson Oak.
So we're taking a look at that. I know the county is actually looking at that circle. So anything we can do to make the pedestrian and, Complete Streets treatments go, even just from Knott Street to the circle would be amazing. I see the track team, I haven't seen them in a long time, but the track team for high school used to run down that all the time. There's people who walk their dogs on it all the time, but the shoulder is like this big. So they're mostly in the travel lane when they're walking on
It'd
that.
actually be good to get more staff there. I know a lot of people bike ride. to
Yeah.
work.
They bike to work.
Sure.
I see people in their full suits walking to GE. So they're somehow walking through that traffic circle.
I'm pretty sure Chief Koshan reached out to the county about it as well. He had a contact. They've been in communication about that
Yeah.
section.
No, I know we've been talking to them a lot, but anytime something like that happens, it always kind of rises to the top. Tree Council's been working on Arbor Day. I believe Arbor Day is April 27th. I probably should have put that directly on the agenda. Let me just- Yeah, April 27th at Town Hall. We are going to have the Silent Raptors birds again. Most of the people who came last year will come again. We were able to pre-order our trees through Schenectady County, which saves us a significant amount of money this year. And I think we're going to be focusing on sycamores. So we're very excited for Arbor Day. And I've been trying to get ready to have a meeting with the Tree Council to get more trees planted. And I finally got him to agree to come to the Tree Council meeting yesterday. So it took a little while, but they just really want to get with the highway department to see how they can help. We know that the highway department gets pulled in a million directions and has a ton of things to do. So the Tree Council wants to see what they can do to help get more trees planted next year. I think Arbor Day is gonna be really fun though. Linda and Trish and I will work on a save the date flyer and get that out there.
will we be able to get more trees coupling up with the county?
Yeah, we were.
Right?
Yeah. Because they were cheaper. We weren't able to get as many different kinds, so we have less
Okay,
kinds, but
Yeah.
more of each type of tree.
all right.
And we did the standard because people like the small flowering trees a lot. So we have a lot of redbuds, we have a lot of service berries, we have lilacs. And then our big tree, the bigger tree that we want to promote this year is the sycamore. We want to get some sycamores out there.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, Conservation Advisory Council, we awarded two RFPs. One was for the NRI, Natural Resource Inventory, and the other one was Greenhouse Gas. We met with Jim at one of our meetings and we reviewed some of the objectives for the NRI. I thought it went extremely well, the meeting with him. We're very excited to kicked that off, and he gave a subsequent presentation to the town board as well. So I think we're moving along with that particular process. We are working with the other consultants to really get a schedule going to get that contract started. So he's been moving along. We reviewed the GE building, and I believe we'll be ready to make a decision at the next upcoming meeting. One of the interesting things that came up in the discussion was that the CAC wrote a letter or a memo to GE last time they were in front of us, asking them to look into some initiatives. And during this meeting, the GE lawyer said that that had been received and that GE would be reaching out to us. So we've got some movement on that. So that's actually very good. And there's some good initiatives there. And I'm optimistic that we'll be able to work with GE to achieve a mutual.
That's great.
So
All right.
that's really good. No other thing.
All right.
You want to do any updates on the architectural review board, Craig?
Sure, just a quick update. We held our February meeting. The ARB holds a video conference the third Wednesday morning of each month at 8:30. And typically we've been providing some input on more commercial projects or developments. This time we had the opportunity to review 2 residential building permit additions. So that was nice. They gave some feedback to the applicants and there's some suggestions. It's voluntary to, in those types of situations. And they've also,
Were there big changes or what?
no, that's usually more minor things that the ARB can.
Windows or?
Yeah,
door
windows.
Placement or size or something?
Yeah, so just some suggestions.
Yeah.
Did it seem
And-
like the residents were receptive to the suggestion?
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
And then they've been doing a lot of work on the train station, working with Jim McKinney, the architect, on the train station, just kind of helping review that and prepare for when that goes out, getting it ready to go out to bid and things like that. That's it.
That's great. Comprehensive Plan Committee, the survey has finally been released and we've gotten about 80 pieces of feedback.
That went out when, last week?
So can I say something about that? It was really hard to release and it was a very big problem that I think a couple people were struggling to tackle, and Aaron, our new secretary to the supervisor, has done an incredible amount of work to make sure that that survey can be released to, and just to give people an idea. Our old email list did not migrate particularly well to our new email list. Aaron compared the old email list to the new email list, tried to figure out how to email everyone that used to get emails from the town, to get them subscribed under the new email. I think she spent the better part of most of her Saturday night on the phone with Leslie Gold, getting us the old subscribed to the email.
It is a little wonky. It's easy to get frustrated with it. So
She also helped me. So I just have to say, and we were waiting. So in the interim, she posted it on Facebook and then she's put it on the town website. And then I think just very recently, we've done an email blast that is truly an email blast that's reaching people. It's not just, okay, we did our email blast, let's move on. It wasn't just checking a box. Aaron literally went through almost every name on that list and tried to make sure that they were being reached. And I can't emphasize enough, that's a hard problem to tackle, and she tackled it wonderfully and with kindness and helped everybody that was having problems. And I was very proud of how it came out and how complicated it was. And I was very excited to see the email blast that recently went out that I got.
yeah.
We'll send out reminders and we're looking at other ways to get information out about the survey. Actually, I was kind of pleased that we had 80 people respond.
Sure.
Today. Okay, so it's moving fast, so that's good.
I know. It's been that long.
No, it hasn't, and it takes some inertia before people get to stuff like that, so.
Well, thank you. That's awesome.
Social media, it's listed on the town's Facebook page, and I shared it and was able to get a ton more shares just from my sharing at my personal page. So it does work to do that if you're ever on there.
So far, you don't have to answer what street you have on, but I thought that it would, well, the whole committee thought it would be useful to be able to filter the results based on area. And originally we were talking about seeing how different neighborhoods would react, but we weren't sure that everybody would know what neighborhood we were, and we weren't able to put like a clickable map or anything like that. So we just went with street. And so it's completely anonymous, but I can kind of see results by street so that, for instance, we have a question, do you want to see more, development on commercial corridors, like what people who live on Route 7 and Bolton Road say versus the rest of the town, just for instance. But I don't have a single person who's responded that lives on Route 7 yet.
Okay.
So if you guys know people who live on Route 7, we've got to get the word out. Joe did finally get Fire District 2 to let us have a meeting there. So I'm working with him to schedule a meeting, and so I'm hopeful that we have a meeting on Route 7. We'll be able to get some feedback from them. But there's definitely, we've only got 100 responses so far, but there's definitely some gaps in areas. And so what I'm thinking is after it's been out for a little while, we can identify some of the area gaps and then do more targeted outreach there as well.
I meant to tell you that we can, if we want to reach out, I have a contact for the old Schaefer house.
So we could do one there too.
Yeah, that might work too, just at least to spread it out. I don't know what the streets look like now in that area.
I don't think we have a lot.
There are specific feedback from residents of Route 7. I think there's a couple individuals we could reach out to. Yeah, there was a Tri-Road Association, but that I think has been inactive for a while. But I do know who is involved with that, and we can talk afterwards about specific people that would.
It's kind of like Aaron personally sharing, like we need the little spider web. So if we can get it out, then it'll do its own, thing.
Oh, yeah. Especially if we want to hear from these areas, we've heard from these areas.
We had our second public outreach at the senior center yesterday, and that went well. We're really excited to get feedback from the residents. There was a lot of actually really good questions, a lot of good comments. It ended up being more of a discussion and we left all the materials there so people could do that at their leisure, but it was actually a very good discussion. And as Laura said, we're going to have another one at the firehouse in second district. So we'll be able to go.
How many people are at the senior center, you think?
I don't know.
15 or 20.
Yeah.
That's great, sure.
Yeah, they're very vocal, very opinionated. So that was good.
Table started looking at the map and we were able to chat with a lot of them. And Linda and Edie and Robin were super helpful. And they're going to continue to promote it. Like they're having a mahjong tournament on Saturday, so they're going to bring it up for the seniors who come into the upstairs, and they're going to show them how to do the input and everything. So they were very helpful and kind.
Yeah, I think we scheduled a half-hour presentation, and I ended up getting back. It went on for quite a while. And then we talked about the RFP earlier in the meeting, but the committee is still working on the open space and the recreation plan. And what we're doing is we're going through all the objectives, talking about each objective, what's missing, is it relevant, stuff like that. That's going to take a little while. We're also going to specifically spend some time talking about the rec center area in particular. Sort of figure out what the town wants to do with that. That's the near-term goals.
Very good. Thank you.
For building department and enforcement, these are just the carry forwards of state guns and ammo, and this was on Kevin's report as well, but the Brookdale Senior Living Center. I will double check when those timelines expire, but I believe they're both under enforcement action. So the question is, are they to the point where we need to turn them over to the courts? I'll double check that this week or next week. And for planning department, the drainage analysis and coordination with the water, sewer, engineering, and highway. This is also just kind of a standard one that I think we'll put on until we get that done. It's a long-term item, but it's very important so that we can study these areas that are really drainage challenged in the town of Niskuna and see if there's grants and things that we can do to help. Clark has been working really hard on the process maps for planning board, planning department. We had our first sort of agenda statement crack at timelines and submission guidelines to the planning board, which we'll be working on over the next couple months. And I thought that went well. And one of the things we're looking at is getting a draft packet for the planning board out on Wednesday and then releasing it to the public on Friday. But that'll give the planning board 2 days to kind of the way they do with the town board. The department heads have, sort of 2 days to comment before it goes out. So we're gonna give that a try. Gonna be an adjustment, but we're gonna give it a try. Console Road Sidewalk, I talked to Weston and Sampson yesterday. I had talked to them a little bit before about concept maps, and I think it had just fallen off their radar, but they will be getting a quote to me on what they can do for the remainder of the escrow that can help us move that project forward. So I should have that for sure by next month. I think that I'll have something by next week. And then the idea would be that they'll do as much as they can for what we have in the escrow, and then the town will take it from there. And the Winnie Road easement, I still just have to put those documents together, but for Bill Chapman and the lady that lives on Winnie Road, who's so lovely sake, I'm gonna leave this on until at least we give it a real try. Did you want to report anything on Metroplex, Erin?
Well, I can say we have a meeting today. I think there's actually a 2-part meeting. One of them is sort of looking at working with a designer to look at some options for the banners that Metroplex is helping us to put up down that what we're calling a business district, not street, down this way. So that's part of the conversation. We also had some feedback from the garbage cans and the benches in front of Knott Street, which were meant to be helpful, but I think are becoming kind of a nuisance to at least some of the businesses that are there. So we're trying to figure out how that can work best. And in some cases, we're kind of removing them for the time being while we figure out what the garbage looks like, which sounds like so silly to say out loud, but it is like a real problem. If somebody's not picking up the garbage, then where's it go? All on the sidewalk. So that's something. So we should have a little bit more information after today to share out about what the next steps are as far as the next phase of upgrades that Metroplex is helping us with.
Okay.
Very good.
I talked to Elena yesterday. She let me know she couldn't attend today, but she just wanted everyone to know that the building department has filed a couple of cases with our court for notice and orders that weren't addressed. So she's been working with us on those. And otherwise, the remainder of the court cases are just still pending. And then, did you have anything else you want to add, Rita?
No, I'm fine. I'm just looking out.
Very good. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you once again.
Sean?
Yes, thank you.
Chris Savino.
Sorry.
Chris Savino.